into entrepreneurship a little bit. We already have, but going into it now to focus on that a little bit. What would you say, out of all the reasons in the world? And I've read your book. You have the 10, all these keys to success, etc. What would you say is the number one reason why people fail? Not necessarily why they make it. The complete opposite.
Right. Lack of brains, lack of effort.
Lack of brains, lack of effort.
Yeah, they don't do the work. They don't learn. When you walk in the room, when you start a business and you start to talk about somebody, you're never in a vacuum with no competition. Unless you're just extremely lucky. And if there's going to be competition, that means somebody else knows your business as well as you do when you get started. And if you walk into a competitive environment and they still know more about the business than you do and more about your customers, you're going to lose. But most people don't consider that. They don't do the work. They don't learn more about their industry. They don't know even about their business. And so you've got to put in the effort to know more about your industry than anybody else. And that's the brains part, and that's the effort part as well. Because look, if you're competing with me, you better know what you're doing. Otherwise, I'm going to kick your ass, and you're not going to outwork me. And so, the combination is usually what kills businesses early on more than anything.
Do you think so? Now, there's a part that people say, Mark made it because Mark is a special guy and he became an entrepreneur. This guy made it. All these guys made it because they have this special gene or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. Do you think there's a proven formula that if a brand rookie guy, he's got a lot of ambition, he's got a lot of desire, but not a lot of knowledge on how to. Do you think if he follows a formula, he's guaranteed to make it as an entrepreneur?
No.
Okay, so you don't believe there's a guarantee to make it?
No, because who knows who you're going to be competing with. So if you put two people both following the same formula, both in the same industry, right, which one wins? Maybe they both can win and both be successful, but so I don't think there's a default template for success, but I think there's things that you can do to put yourself in the best position to succeed. So I talk about stuff in the book. I talk about the one thing in business you can control is effort. Mm-hmm. Going out there and sales, curing all. So I think and I agree with your point that there are things that if you do them, you put yourself in the best position to succeed. But if you just walk into a buzzsaw and somebody else is doing them a little bit better, it happens.
Now, are you saying to compete at your level, there's no way
or just any level, right? Just any level.
So even if you put a formula for me, I followed it. Will I eventually be able to make $250,000 a year if I follow the plan that you put? I'm not talking about $100 million.
Yeah, but you got to pick where too, right?
Right.
So I was
industry-wise,
right?
maybe?
Yeah, I was at a business plan competition, and they were talking about making big money reselling travel plans and making $3 in affiliate commissions, right? It's just not going to happen. You have to be smart. Point. You have to be smart. You can pick the wrong things. And, you're talking, alluding to it earlier about entrepreneurs being born or built, and I think I knew I was wired to be excited about business. How or why, I don't know. But, and there's certain guys that have the genetics to jump out of the gym, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. There's certain guys, that, when they golf, they have the muscle memory and the discipline. Dirk Nowitzki may not be the most talented guy in the NBA, but his discipline and his focus to do what's necessary to be successful, he's willing to do, and combine it with being 7 feet tall and being skilled, it makes him an amazing basketball player. So it's understanding what your skill set is, finding the right place to use those skills, and then going for it. Will that make you $250,000? It depends if you pick the right industry. But whatever industry you pick, if you outwork everybody, if you try to be a little smarter than everybody, if you try to be a better salesperson than everybody, if you try to be better prepared than everybody, you've got your best chance. Because if you don't do it and somebody else does, I have the saying, work like someone's trying to take it all away from you. Mm-hmm. I actually work like someone's spending 24 hours, working 24 hours to take it all away from you. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of the way I look at it.
When you were younger, was your father into business? Was your mother? Was there an uncle, somebody that did well in business that you admire? Was there somebody you read about that you said, I like Rockefeller, I like Carnegie? Nothing. So it's just purely you that you had business?
Yeah, my dad, I think, my dad did upholstery on cars. My mom did whatever odd jobs. But my dad was always like, if you want something, you have to earn it. And to his credit, he never said, no, you can't do that. So whether it was selling garbage bags, baseball cards, stamps, whatever it was, he never held me back. And so I think that was as important as anything. And, sometimes being young and trying things, you're so naive and you don't know any better. All you do is learn. And if you fail, it doesn't matter. And so whether I was 9, 10, 12, 16, 21, the failures were irrelevant. And, whether you're, 9, 12, 16, 21, 22, 24, I'm sleeping on the couch. I have a car with a hole in the floorboard. You know, I'm living like a bum and like a student. And so what did I have to lose? And so I think that influenced me as much as anything. So it was, you know, my dad was like, go for it. You know, why not? What have you got to lose? You know, you have to sleep on a different couch. So I think that was motivation as much as anything.
So you had the encouragement from
Yeah,
fathers
for sure.
saying, support, go do it.
Yeah, go do it.
So do you think, like, let's just say if we put 10 guys here, you interview them, okay? You could, within a 5-10 minute interview, say, this dude's not going to make it as an entrepreneur. Could you pretty much know that?
You know, I'm not very good at
interviewing.
interviewing. The issue is my interview skills more than,
Really?
you know, I'm horrible at it.
Isn't Shark Tank interviewing, though?
Well, yeah, it is, but I get to do due diligence after the fact, right? So I get to play my henches, but I get to check. Yeah, I mean, I can typically tell, right? I can tell but by their passion, I can tell by their focus, I can tell by their preparation. You know, there's a whole realm of things in any business. Here, you know, here's the business you're in, and here's 1,000 things that influence whether or not you're going to be successful. And really, to me, you know, through my experience in businesses, I can put myself in his position and say, okay, here are 900 of the 1,000 things he has to be aware of, and then go through and ask. And by how many of those or her issues they've been able to address already, that kind of gives me a sense of how hard they're willing to work. You know, and I can tell by the questions they ask me. So all I have to do is say, okay, what do you want to know? And, you know, when they start saying, what should I do?
They ask you.
Yeah, you know, and that's fine, right? And I want them to ask questions, but, you know, people like to say, you know, the only stupid questions are the ones you don't ask, and that's not right, right? Because the questions you ask tell whoever more about you than anything else you do. Because in particular, it tells me about your preparation. If you ask me questions about just basic things that you should have known and you should have down to a science, that's going to disqualify you almost more than anything.
Cyber does you send that, by the way.
But the questions,
I said, man, I got to get the questions right with this guy.
It's true. Right,
so I read it. I said, okay, I'll take that as a challenge.
And that's what Cyber Dust, I'll blast out like when I have a thought.
That was great.
Yeah. So
that was phenomenal.
What the questions you ask are critical.
I agree. It's complete opposite on the way you know, the traditional way of thinking. And you always ask the question. So, Mark, you're now, you know, whatever your net worth is, billions of dollars. You own a sports team. You have businesses. You're on Shark Tank. You're on TV shows. Everybody wants your time. How hard is it for you now? This is the thing I think about, because for my side, I run a business. It's harder for me to make friends now and let people in my circle, but I'm not at your level. How is it when a person like you, is it still easy to make friends now?
Yeah,
is
but
it
I'm
more
not out there, you know,
association,
at this point, I'm not out there looking, you know, I don't need any new running buddies. I mean, my high school buddies are still my friends, my college buddies, my rugby buddies. The guys when I first came to Dallas that were my friends then are my friends now. You know, I've got 3 kids, you know, so it's more, you know, my family just takes up so much of my time along with business. So I'm not, you know, and even back in the day when I was single, I was still successful. I could tell the gold diggers from the real friends. I mean, you know, it was pretty easy.
Got it. Did association play a big role with you or not really?
Not
really for you?
Yeah.
Because you were so determined it didn't matter. Nobody could influence you, influence other people.
Yeah, I just went and did my thing.
Makes sense. Couple words I'll just put out there. I want to see what you think about it, because I watch you and I watch some of these other guys and I see a sense of paranoia. And I don't know if you read the book, Only the Paranoid Survive. I don't know if it was 10, 20 years. Great book that was written. Do you think there needs to be a healthy level of paranoia?
Oh, absolutely.
There needs to be.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I always say, you know, for every one of my businesses, I said, what would I do to kick my own ass? You're right. So whatever business you have, there's somebody trying to put you out of business. There's somebody trying to take a bite out of your business. And it's better for you to figure out how they're going to do it rather than they do it. And so, yeah, that's being paranoid. And so you have to be paranoid. You have to anticipate other people's next moves, and you can't ever, you know, downplay the competition. You know, I was at a business plan competition this morning at a college, and they were kind of being dismissive of the competition. And so you can't ever do that. You know, they're out there trying to take you down, and they're not just going to sit still. And if you're good, really, really good, you're going to inspire them to work even harder, faster, better. And so you have to be, you know, very self-aware of what you're good at and what other people are good at. And, you know, a healthy dose of paranoia makes a big difference. Is very helpful.
So that's interesting you say that. So sometimes, you know, you're being a little bit too paranoid, you know, you're being too concerned about this, too concerned about that. The other question for you would be, Mark, you don't run one company. You run many companies. You're doing deals all the time. And there's this notion that you hear multitasking, right? You can't multitask, you can't do this. So your brain, if I were to take 100%, I'll get 10% here, 7% here, 6% here. How do you process all of it here in your mind with the different
That happens to be
responsibilities
something
you have?
that I'm really good at, right? You know, I process things very quickly, and that's always been my strength. I can identify what's going on typically faster than anybody, and grind right through it. And plus, you know, I because I force everybody to email or cyberdust, it's all coming from one flow, right? It's all one funnel. And so I'm not bouncing from meeting to meeting thinking, okay, what did we say in that meeting? We're having to take notes, and then we're having somebody take notes. You know, it's like, it's already in writing, it's in an email, and if it's in cyberdust, it's like having a face-to-face. And when I see it, I respond to it immediately. Cyberdust forced me to respond to it immediately. And so that allows me to keep things organized and stay on top of things. And, you know, so, you know, anything that's unread, that's my to-do list, and that's how I stay on top of it.
Got it. I've become a fanatic cyberdust. There's every other hour I'm checking cyber. When you told me, you know, go check out cyberdust, and then from there we got everybody on the company. Now everyone out here, the only way you're going to get to see this first, you got to go on cyberdust. And I'm going to put the link out. We'll do one on mentions to get everybody on there. But I love the product, and we'll get to that because I want to explain how I see cyberdust, not as a CEO, as a customer, because I want people to see how I see it as a customer. Let's talk about speed. When people ask me and say, hey, you know, how do I get speed going? I want to see your perspective on this, because cyberdust has a tipping point. You know, you got Twitter has a tipping point. Facebook had everything is about the tipping point. In your mind, how does one entrepreneur increase the speed in areas that they can increase? There's certain things you can't control.
Speed in what way?
Speed of growing your business.
All right.
So how fast can I grow it?
Yeah, I mean, it just depends. You've got to know your own skill set, right? And you've got to know how that fits within your company's life cycle. You know, some companies are slow grind, and you just have to understand that, and you've just got to bide your time until it starts to click, and then grow with it quickly. You know, if you're trying to release a product that needs to be ubiquitous, you've got to go as fast as you can, and then, you know,
release a product, like a launch.
Yeah, and you know, there's a lot of people who will say, you know, perfection is the enemy of profitability, right? And that doesn't mean you have to wait till it's a perfect product. You know, cyberdust is a perfect example. We still haven't, it's been almost 2 years, we still haven't advertised it yet because we know it's not ready yet. You know, and so it's been a slow growth grind because we want feedback, you know, we want to keep on learning. We're evolving. But it really just depends on what the product is. It, you know, a barbershop, right? Is it an app? Is it a service? Is it a product? But, you know, the key is looking for the low-hanging fruit. What customers are willing to write you a check or commit to it, you know, so that they're willing to integrate it into their daily lives or integrate it into their daily business. And so getting a commitment either through time or revenue is typically what I look for. And so if I can get a commitment, then I'm going to be able to learn. I'm going to see how they use it. Do they sustain usage? And then once I get the next one, you know, hopefully it came a little bit faster than the first one. Then I can ask for referrals, and then the next one, then the next one, and I just try to ramp it up. You know, when I bought the Mavs, we had no season ticket holder base. And so literally it was a matter of just putting a list of former season ticket holders in a white pages back then, you know, on my desk next to my phone and making phone calls.
You?
Yeah, me. Yeah, because if I'm not going to do it, how can I expect someone else to do it, right? So just get on the phone. Hey, this is Mark Cuban. I'm the new owner of the Dallas Mavericks. You know, I'd like to invite you back for again. It's not, though. This is my business.
But you can't get regular sales guys or something to make those calls once they get to a quarter. You're a guy that's a billionaire. You're making those calls.
But that's all, you know, and that's fine and good, right? Because everybody's got their own goals, right? But still, I didn't want anybody at the Mavs to be able to say, well, he's not willing to do the work, right? There's, you know, if I walk around, I'm picking up all the papers. I'm not saying go get that picked up. I'm like, okay, that's trash. I'm picking it up. But in terms of speed of growth, it's really, you got to get that first customer first. And then when you get that first, what did you learn? Reiterate, get that next customer. And then hopefully as you learn.
It's classic. Okay, let's transition to a different subject. Let me see the time. Okay, let's transition to a different subject with college. You went to IU, right? Now you got a lot of people that say, forget about school, you know,
they're
drop
idiots.
out of school.
They're idiots.
So you think they're idiots? Tell me why.
If you're going to have and run a business, if you don't understand accounting, you're already behind the 8 ball.
Can't you hire a guy that knows how to run
But then
accounting?
they still have to communicate to you right? I mean, there's people that don't understand the concept of, the difference between profits and cash. Your accountant might tell you you're profitable, but your cash is going down. Not understanding a breakdown. And when you don't,
You think you need college to learn that?
yeah, I think you do, right? Because it may not, for some people, look, if you're so self-motivated that you can take an online course in accounting and teach yourself everything, you're way ahead of the game anyways. But most people aren't. And I'm not saying you have to go to Indiana. I'm not saying go to an expensive school. I don't care if you go to a community college and take accounting and spend $99 for the class. Just, spending the money forces you to be more obligated to do it. But accounting, finance, lesser extent marketing, sales, if the school offers that, these are all that's the language of business. And so while it's possible to teach yourself these things, and while it's possible to hire them, when you're starting your own company, you don't want to have to spend money hiring an accountant, right? You're already probably going to have to hire a lawyer to set up your. Well, let me take that. If you've gone through all these classes, you probably don't have to hire a lawyer to incorporate, right? You can probably figure out yourself. And so your cost of opening up a business drops. But even more important than all that, that's the blocking and tackling. That's the language of business. The thing I learned at Indiana that was more important than anything else, I learned how to learn. And learning became far more important to me, because the one certainty in business is that it's always going to be changing. If you're not always learning, to this minute, if I'm not continuously learning, if I'm not just absorbing as much as I can absorb, someone else is going to kick my ass, right? So you talk about paranoia. The greatest source of your paranoia should be knowledge. If someone else knows more than you do, and if you're not learning, if you don't know how to learn, if you don't have a thirst for learning and acquiring information, you're SOL.